Welcome back to Broncos Beat. Alexis Perry here alongside Jeff Legwold, Cecil, Lammey, and Ryan Harris. Guys, there have been so many times this season that we've talked about this Denver defense keeping this team in games, but unfortunately that was not the case on Saturday as the Broncos gave up the most points and allowed the most yards since Vic Fangio took over as head coach last season. So let's go ahead and start with the secondary. Short-handed doesn't even begin to describe the Broncos situation at the cornerback position going up against studs like Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. So how did the unproven corners stack up against your expectations for them heading into this game?
Well, they did exactly what I thought they'd do. Give up some great fight, but then get overpowered by one of the best offensive weapons in the entire NFL. And listen, this is a defense that has already had to play a game in which there's no quarterback on your football team. I don't know a single defense that can do it the way the Broncos did. And then they come into this game against Josh Allen at this point in the season, which in mid-December, teams are who they are. They are going to either be playoff teams who are dominating, or they're going to be teams that continually have issues that prevent them from winning. And that's what we saw with the three cornerbacks going into the game. And then, oh, by the way, one gets ejected. So a good lesson for Michael Ojemudia to learn how to keep your composure even while losing.
Yeah, and, look at the bingo card for the Broncos this year. The game with no quarterbacks, they don't just get any team. They get the Saints. The game with no corners, they don't get just any team. They get the Bills. And the Ojemudia play is awful. I mean, going into the game, and he has played with savvy and intelligence all season, but that is a terrible moment for him. I mean, that you're now suddenly looking at a corner the Broncos already cut this year in Devontae Bosby, and another player they signed off a practice squad, a week and a half before the game. So, when things go bad, they go really bad. And the Ojemudia ejection, they were going to have a tough time hanging on no matter what, because it was clear that the Bills had decided they're throwing to Stephon Diggs and Beasley as many times as possible. But the ejection, I thought, was sort of ended any chance of that they were going to be able to hang in there.
Well, both Ryan and Leggy point out what the Bills exactly did. They just kept hammering with those two elusive and exclusive weapons for their team, with Diggs and with Beasley. They just kept at it. And when your pass rush, which is tied to your secondary, doesn't get home, that just exposes those young corners, and that's what we saw.
And a little bit of a football thing. Beasley has free reign to run any route he wants on any snap. So it takes a lot of experience and intelligence and just reps to handle a receiver like that. And that's a tough cover for anybody, let alone somebody who's just been in the lineup, a week.
Cecil, you just hinted at this. Josh Allen had all the time in the world to throw that football. So I know that life is hard without Von Miller, but you guys, where were Bradley Chubb and Malik Reed on Saturday?
Good question. In this one, we always compare Drew Lock and Josh Allen. People are always going to compare Bradley Chubb and Josh Allen. And this was the game. I don't know if Bradley was thinking about it. I know the talent's there. I know that he can, have a 20-sack season. I still believe that. We're not seeing that in this game. It's not like they were double teaming him. Go back and watch the film. There was a lot of single blocks out there, and Chubb was just, barely missing Josh Allen. He wasn't getting home. And this is one of those things where Broncos fans who, look at Josh Allen and think that could have been our guy, then they look at Bradley Chubb, who didn't get any sacks on the day, and you go, well, wait a second, that's the guy that we chose instead of Josh Allen. This was a big game for him to really show why the Broncos took him at 5. I don't know about you, Leggy. I didn't think he should have been there at 5. I thought he was going to go earlier than that, and, still believe in him as a player, still believe in his upside. But man alive, it was tough not seeing him get home on Saturday.
Well, I think sometimes we in this modern time, I think we don't give enough credence to an ACL.
Right.
It's not just a 9-month injury. Everybody Adrian Peterson. The outlier is always going to be the outlier in things. So I've put snaps side by side from before the injury and after, and I think he has tweaked it a couple times this year, and it's pretty clear to me he can't push off that leg at times when he needs to transition from outside to inside and those types of things. So I think next year we'll see the full Bradley Chubb, but I think physically he's not quite there. And when you're not quite there, you're not quite going to sack the quarterback either.
Right.
But a lot of people don't know that oftentimes after that ACL, you have to clean out what's going on in there. And so maybe there's some pieces there for Bradley Chubb. Also, we got to remember the second drive of the game for the Bills. They started on their 5, marched down the field and scored a touchdown. And then the Broncos went 3 and out after that. That defense was on the field the entire first half. That's going to wear down anybody. I don't care who you are and what your pedigree is.
Cecil, really quick before we go to break, what do you hope that this defense remembers about this game against the Bills as they look to finish this season on a high note?
I hope that they remember to play a solid football, but also not get too emotional, right? We saw that with the Ojemudia thing, right? Play within yourself, play with an edge. Don't get too emotional when things aren't going your way. And hopefully that's a lesson that they can take away from this sort of contest.